Hello everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Benji-Sales live chat. We should be up, we should be rocking, we should be going. Hello everyone. A rare Saturday edition of the live chat. I almost missed one this week. I'm squeezing it in at the last second, so I'm not sure how turnout's going to be, right? It's a Saturday afternoon here in the US. I'm sure a bunch of people are busy out doing things, but hey, we're here, we're rocking, we're going. We still got a chat in this week. I'm very glad I was able to get one in. Y'all know I love doing this. So hello. So good to see everyone. What are the topics that we can talk about and chat about here today? You know, it was a fairly slow news week, right? I kind of tweeted about this. It hasn't been super exciting. That's because we are in basically late May, right? We're about to head into E3 season, Summer Game Fest, right? Whenever all the big news is about to drop in just a couple weeks. So last week, probably this coming week, is going to be a little bit slow, right? Probably we'll get some teases starting this coming week, but not a ton of breaking crazy news. But of course, as always in the video game industry, there is still some stuff that we can talk about. So what are some of those topics? First of all, there is the news that just broke, this week that AT&T is going to be splitting away from WB Games is going to be splitting away from AT&T, right? I said that in reverse, which is interesting, right? What does that mean? Does it mean that, some of these studios, it sounds like, might stay with AT&T. Some of these might go to Discovery. For anyone that missed this, basically, AT&T wants to kind of get out of the media business, not completely, but they are kind of moving away from that, right? They bought WB a while ago. They got a ton of debt from it, and it really hasn't paid off for them. So they're kind of spinning off, DC Comics, DC in general, WB Games, like a ton of those media assets that came with the purchase overall. They're kind of Warner Media is kind of getting spun off with Discovery, and they're kind of separating themselves from that. So there's a ton of questions about, is Discovery going to keep WB Games? Are they going to kind of sell some of these studios off? Are they going to keep some, sell some? No one really knows, it sounds like, so we can go into that. Of course, this week was really kind of in gaming media dominated by Starfield talk, right? Whether that was release date discussion, whether it was we finally have, it appears, confirmation this game is only going to be on Xbox and PC. No PlayStation, it sounds like, so we can talk about that. We can talk about whatever. So really quick, y'all, I'm about to dive into your comments and questions. If you are new to this chat, if you're not normally here, right? This is a different time for me than what I normally stream. The way this chat works, it's completely driven by you, right? Your comments, your questions, whatever you want to talk about, drop those down into chat and I get to as many as I possibly can. Now, there's going to be two ways to do that. First of all, of course, there's the free method, right? You just type a question, it pops up into chat, and I get to as many of those as I can over the next hour or so. However, if you want to 100% guarantee that I get to your question, the way to do that is going to be the super chat option. You basically just type in a super chat of whatever donation amount you want. It gives me an alert, and super chats get priority, right? They get number one because, that's what you pay for. But to be clear, don't feel obligated to donate in chat or anything like that that, because I do get to free questions as well. That's just a way to guarantee that I get to your question and to help support me and the channel. All right, I think we're good on the intro. I don't think there's any real housekeeping notes or anything like that, anything coming up to talk about. So we're good. We're good. I'm going to start diving into your comments and questions, everyone, so start filling that chat up. And thanks for everyone that's making it out on a Saturday. I know this is a bit of a weird time, but thank you so much. Plastic Hearts Podcast with the 5 super chat right off the top. Hello, Plastic Heart. So good to see you. Benji boy, summer is almost here. What are your summer plans, big Benji dog? So for me, I'm actually getting ready to leave on vacation, right smack dab during E3 week, right? So there's not going to be any companion streams while these conferences are going on live because I am going on vacation to the beach. However, some plans here for the YouTube channel that I'm going to try and do. I'm going to try to hopefully each night that we have some of these conferences, do a recap chat almost like a live chat, maybe not as long as we normally go, maybe just like 30 or 45 minutes, just a quick chat to kind of break down everyone's thoughts, see what you guys thought about, some of the conferences, what I thought about some of the conferences, things like that. And then other than that, it's just going to be work outside of the vacation coming up. But not a ton out of that. I might start, this is a might, everyone, but the podcast might start spinning up this summer. I don't know that it's going to have any consistency to it at first. But I've been talking about trying to get an actual podcast with guests rocking on here for a while. I might, and this is not a guarantee, but I might start spinning that up sometime this summer. So I don't plan on it being super consistent at first. I'm not going to promise everyone that they're going to get, a brand new podcast every single week. I'm still going to do the live chat every week. The podcast, so it's going to be probably at first a little bit hit or miss, like in terms of when I post it, because it's just about finding time, right? I almost missed a chat this week, let alone, doing a podcast on top of it. So those are a few of my plans, and of course, play a ton of games. Thank you so much for the super chat. Timmer72299 with the 5 super chat. What is up, Timmer? Thanks for always being in chat, always being so supportive, and always rocking on Twitter. Hi, Benji. Starfield or Halo Infinite? Which of these games will generate more revenue? This is an amazing question. Thoughts on the situation with WB Games, plus keep being awesome. You keep being awesome as well, Timmer. So this is a great question, right? Which is bigger, Starfield or Halo Infinite? Man, this is tough. So Halo has traditionally been, right, the premier Xbox franchise, right? All the way back, seriously, literally to the original Halo. You go all the way back to Halo Combat Evolved, and that's really the game that made Xbox, right? I don't think there's any mystery behind that. Yes, over the years, Microsoft's made other IP that have become super valuable, right? Things like Forza, things like Fable, Gears of War, but really Xbox traditionally has been built off Halo, right? There's just no doubt about it. That is the game. I mean, myself, right? I had no real interest in Xbox until I got hands-on with Halo with a friend's Xbox, and suddenly I fell in love, like all the way back with old school Halo. And I think so many people, that was their introduction to the Xbox ecosystem, right? Not everyone, of course, but I think for tons of people, Halo's what brought you in. So at first, you think it's got to be Halo Infinite, right? There's just no way this is Xbox's premier franchise. On the other hand, though, keep in mind that the last 2 Bethesda games, like big RPG, single player Bethesda games, Skyrim and Fallout 4, were both enormous. I mean, Elder Scrolls Skyrim is the best-selling single player RPG of all time. And then you look at Fallout 4, which had a colossal launch. We're talking 12 plus million units shipped right off the bat, right? Went on to become the second best-selling Bethesda game ever, only behind Skyrim. So you look at their pedigree, right, for single-player big RPGs. Of course, we know Bethesda had a bit of a miss, to put it mildly, with Fallout 76. It seems that game actually has recovered a bit, but of course, that's not at the same level as what they've accomplished with Skyrim and what they accomplished with Fallout. So, that is a great question. Here's the thing. I would say in terms of total player count and possibly revenue whenever you factor in microtransactions, because we don't know exactly how it's going to be monetized. I could see Halo Infinite actually generating more money, and the reason for that's going to be that free-to-play multiplayer, right? If they nail that, if Halo Infinite has spectacular multiplayer, keep in mind, some of the biggest games in the entire world are free-to-play multiplayer games, right? League of Legends, Fortnite, Apex Legends, Dota. I mean, I could go down the list, right? Many of the biggest games in the world are these free-to-play multiplayer titles. So if that hits big and they have a smart, good monetization method, they could make a freaking ton of money off of that. So I could see Halo actually generating more revenue than Starfield. Again, this is strictly assuming that they nail the multiplayer. However, I could see Starfield actually generating more Game Pass subscriptions, right? because Halo Infinite, I'm sure that's going to generate a ton of Game Pass subs as well. But the actual multiplayer component is completely free to play. So you don't even need Game Pass, right? You can just boot up Steam, or you can just boot up Xbox or Windows Store, wherever you play this game, and you can play the multiplayer free. No Game Pass, nothing at all, right? You will need Game Pass or to buy the game to experience that single player or things like that. But with Starfield, like, I think that's going to generate a ton of subscriptions, because there is no like free to play component, right? It's you either buy Starfield or you have Game Pass. So I actually could see a scenario, if Halo Infinite's multiplayer is good, it generates more money long term, but Starfield being the bigger boost of the two in regards strictly to Game Pass subs. I could definitely see that scenario, right? We're going to have to see the quality of these games, of course, things like that. You all know this, but that's kind of my thoughts on where I'm sitting right now on those two. But either way, they should be huge. And then in terms of WB Games, I'm sure other people are going to have a lot of detailed questions about this as well. So I want to hit this just really quick, and then we'll get to some of the more detailed stuff with some of the other questions. But my first thought, just like overarching thought on WB Games, is it seems to be a bit of a mystery, even to the people working there, what's happening, right? You saw multiple people come out and say that they've talked to people at WB Games, and even these people don't know what's going on. There was also an article that came out from, I want to say maybe Variety, in terms of the movie and film side, and even they didn't really know what was going on, right? And honestly, of the two, I'm just being honest here, we all love video games, but for Discovery, I think they're actually more interested in the movie and DC side component of this than the video game side, right? I think that that is something that they have more familiarity with, being involved with, you know, TV and streaming and things like this. So just my quick overarching thought is it seems no one truly knows yet exactly what's going to happen with WB Games. So we're going to have to keep an eye on that. And I'm going to save some of the more detailed answers for some of the other questions. Thank you so much, Timmer, for the super chat. Split End 89 with a $2 super chat. What is up, Split End 89? Best mod in the business. Thank you for being here and moderating the chat, and also thanks for the super chat. Opinion: good fits for WB Studios if sold. Okay, so let's really address, is there a scenario where WB could be sold here? And the answer is actually yes. Now, I'm seeing some people kind of run away thinking WB Games is definitely being sold, right? Like, oh, this means that for sure WB Games Studios are going to go up for sale. No, we do not know that yet, right? The only thing we know for sure was that original statement that was reported by a journalist, and I apologize off the top of my head. I can't remember which journalist first reported this. I saw Stephen Totillo also piggybacked off this and posted on Twitter as well. But they could be sold. All we know right now is Discovery appears, at least preliminarily, to be taking some of these teams. AT&T noted that some teams would probably maybe be staying with AT&T. So no matter what, it seems that the WB Games as we know of today possibly could be broken up. Now, there is a scenario that some of these could be sold. This is really right now, I mean, the main reason this is happening is AT&T is trying to get rid of the astronomical debt that they have, right? It's something like $160 billion of debt, y'all. It's insane. It's a enormous amount of debt. And that's really why this is happening. They're trying to get out of all this debt. They said to investors that 5G, building all their 5G infrastructure for AT&T phones has been more expensive than they planned on. And they're just not making enough money in terms of these assets. So they're kind of spinning them off, combining it with Discovery, making this new company. That doesn't mean, though, that that's a permanent solution, especially if you want to make more money and quickly try and burn off this debt. That does leave the option in there that some of these teams could be sold. We just don't know yet. But in a hypothetical scenario where Discovery or WB or AT&T decides to sell some of these, I think the number one that would be most attractive for Sony particularly would be NetherRealm. I think NetherRealm would be a hot commodity for pretty much anyone. Look at how big Mortal Kombat is. Look at how big, which would go with NetherRealm probably, right? Because that's not a DC related IP. So if you wanted to maximize the amount of money you could get with a sale from NetherRealm, you would include that Mortal Kombat IP, I think, with them. Now, again, this is all hypothetical. It could be that 0 of these studios get sold. But I think you would see Sony in particular really try and get NetherRealm if this happened, if they sold them piecemeal, because A, Sony is getting more invested in the fighting space than they already are. They purchased Evo. We also know that they've been hosting like Mortal Kombat tournaments on the official PlayStation YouTube channel. In general, Sony seems to have like a desire to become a bigger player in the fighting game space. And what bigger player could you buy than NetherRealm? So if they went for sale, I'm sure everyone would be interested in NetherRealm, but particularly I think you would see Sony and PlayStation go for them. I think you would see Microsoft be interested in studios like Monolith, right? Because Microsoft really seems to try to be building up this like RPG stable, this like action adventure stable of titles of games. Monolith would fit perfectly in that wheelhouse, right? The developers behind Middle-earth, Shadow of Mordor, Shadow of War. I think that would be a hot studio for Microsoft in particular. And then Rocksteady, everyone would want Rocksteady. It doesn't matter who, you name them, EA, Take-Two, Sony, Microsoft, everyone, right? Everyone would want Rocksteady. So they would go for a massive amount of money as well. The thing that makes selling the WB games though weird, and I think the main reason why they probably didn't sell when it was rumored the last time around that they were up for sale, is so many of these studios are so dependent on the IP they work on. So that makes them a bit of a harder sell than some other, independent teams or publishers where you could acquire that IP as well. It's hard for me to envision a scenario where WB Games goes for sale and then they also sell the gaming rights for like Batman and these sort of licenses that these teams really depend on for their popularity. So that does throw a wrench in things and makes it a lot weirder in terms of would someone be willing to fork over, probably the huge asking price that they would want for these teams. But that's kind of a few off the top of my head. Thank you for the super chat. Killian Butler with the 5 super chat. Thank you so much, Killian. Hey, Benji, how are you? I'm doing great. I'm doing really, really good right now. What are some announcements / game updates you hope to see this summer? It's E3 season and I'm hyped. Yes, we are, getting into E3 season. Thank goodness. It has been boring on Twitter this last week. I think it's going to be boring on Twitter this next week. If you notice, I haven't tweeted all that much this week. I kind of live and die on how active I am on Twitter based off the news cycle, right? I try to not just like post a ton of random stuff on Twitter. I don't think people are that interested in just hearing me spout off random comments, right? You see a lot of people that are like ultra active on Twitter. They're just nonstop posting. Like every 10 minutes, there's a new tweet from them. For me, I try to keep my timeline. Of course, you're going to see me post some random stuff too, but I try to keep it kind of, like a curated, somewhat news feed of interesting topics to talk about. And it's been pretty boring. So I haven't tweeted all that much this last week. I'm hoping you're going to see me tweet more next week. So what are some announcements and updates I'm hyped for? Number one for me, honestly, I think might be Starfield, okay? Just because this game is generating incredible hype and no one really knows anything about it. All we've seen is a few leaked screenshots from a build that was apparently from all the way back in 2018, right? We're talking like 2018, 2019, 2020, 2021, right? Depending on when in 2018, this is a build potentially up to 4 years old. That game's going to look radically different now than whatever those leaked screenshots were. We know so little about this. Bethesda, I love their single player RPGs. I played the heck out of Fallout. I played the heck out of Oblivion, Skyrim, you could go down the list. I think if Starfield is super impressive, I think this is the game that could dominate E3 in terms of like headlines moving away from it, right? It needs to look good though, right? That's the other problem when you generate this insane levels of hype, is that also if you don't blow people away, then the blowback can be huge, right? So the showing of this game needs to be incredibly impressive. But I am very, very excited to see what Starfield actually legitimately is. So I'm super excited to see that. Sony, we don't exactly know when they're going to talk, right? Of course, you have to assume they're going to talk sometime this summer. I expect that to be after E3. My guess, and this is not insider info, but my guess would be probably late June. I think they're going to let all the E3 announcements happen. I think they're going to let Microsoft show their hand, do all of that, and then they're going to come in like they usually do for the big conferences, after everyone else. So I would expect Sony to go sometime mid to late June. And for them, I'm just really excited to see Horizon and God of War. Those aren't surprises, but I really can't wait to see those games. God of War, as we all know, is going to get delayed till next year. So I'm curious how they're going to announce that delay and what they're going to show. But those are kind of expected ones. So what are some announcements? Apparently there's a new Final Fantasy game getting announced, right? That's a heavy rumor going on right now. I love Final Fantasy. Apparently it's another PlayStation exclusive. So I'm very curious to see that. It's always hard to guess in terms of like unannounced games because heck, they're unannounced, right? So it's kind of hard to guess at this sort of stuff because we just really don't know. I think it's too early to see Alan Wake 2. I would love to see Alan Wake 2 show up somewhere, but I don't think we get that game officially announced probably until next year. So yeah, update wise and more reveals. I'm going to say the ones I'm most excited for are Battlefield 6, Horizon Forbidden West, God of War, whatever it's called, Ragnarok, Starfield, and Forza Horizon 5. Those would be the games off the top of my head I'm most excited to see. Real Radic with a 2 super chat. Thank you so much, Real Radic, saying Tom Cruise in Starfield. Is it legit? Well, it could be. There's no doubt about it, whether you like when games use celebrity content or actors or you don't. There's no doubt that they do bring crazy attention. I mean, look at how wild the attention Keanu Reeves brought to Cyberpunk was. Now, whether you feel in the actual game itself that delivered or not, I actually haven't even played Cyberpunk, so I can't tell you if he did a good job or not, but it was a massive win in terms of marketing, right? Maybe not so much to us hardcore gamers, but there are a lot of very, very casual gamers, right? There's tons of them. In fact, there's more of them than there are than us, right? Of people that just interact with games, they play them, but they don't spend all day online, just chatting about them. And you put a big actor in there, and there's no doubt whether you like Tom Cruise or not, he's a massive actor. And we also know he likes sci-fi, right? He has been in many sci-fi movies. He was in Minority Report. He was in that movie Edge of Tomorrow or Live, Die, Repeat, whatever it was called. He was in that. Like, we know Tom Cruise has a thing for sci-fi, right? So I'm going to be honest, I could absolutely see this, Real Radic. I'm not going to say I know this because I don't. I have no inside info on it. But this seems like a rumor to me that could very much be real. And I want to say one other thing on this because I am seeing some people have a somewhat weird response to it. And I get where it comes from, but I've seen some people say things like, focus on your game, not actors. Here's the thing, putting someone like Keanu in Cyberpunk or putting Tom Cruise in Starfield, that's going to pull like zero resources from the game, like zero. It's going to essentially make no difference whatsoever in terms of like the game's development, right? It might make like recording audio a little bit weird because let's be honest, especially someone like Tom Cruise, who's a legit A-list actor, I'm sure they have some pretty intense demands. And, I'm sure they're going to be a little bit harder to work with maybe than just a regular standard voice actor. But at the end of the day, like, it's just a role in a game, y'all. Like, that's not going to take that much time to implement compared to something else, right? So putting a big actor in your game is not going to pull that many resources. And what it is going to do is just going to get a ton of marketing attention. Now, again, you might not like having a recognizable actor in your games, but keep in mind, putting Tom Cruise in Starfield wouldn't like suddenly make the development cycle of Starfield radically worse. Like, it's probably going to change almost nothing other than budget, right? Tom Cruise ain't going to be cheap. I can tell you that right now. You could definitely hire an actor, a voice actor, for way less than you would pay for Tom Cruise, but they might feel that that marketing push would be worth that added budget. So I think it'd be interesting. I'm down for it. I'm actually down for it. I think Tom Cruise in real life is a bit of a weird guy, but I think he's an outstanding actor. I think he's one of the best actors in the world. So I would be interested to see what he could do. Phil Morley with the 5 super chat here. Thank you so much, Phil. With Nintendo's success with the Switch, could you ever see Sony trying to get back into the portable market in the future? Phil, my hunch is that Sony's a long-term strategy in terms of getting into portable market is probably going to be similar to Microsoft's. And what do I mean by that? Streaming it to your phone or other devices, right? I'd be surprised, Phil, if you see Sony come out and do like a Vita 2. I would love it, okay? I thought the Vita was an amazing portable system. I had a PSP. I really dug the PSP back in the day as well. I actually thought that they had some really awesome handhelds. However, the R&D is so expensive. You also have the high risk of Nintendo, let's just be honest, completely dominates that space, right? They're so hard to compete with in that portable market. So it probably long term is actually easier for Sony to just implement streaming on mobile, kind of like you're seeing Microsoft do with xCloud, right? So put it this way. Do I want to see this happen? Yes. I would love a Vita 2 or whatever they want to call it, right? A dedicated handheld where they can do all kinds of sweet, cool stuff with it. I would prefer that personally, actually, I think, over streaming. But I think it's actually cheaper for them and less risky in the long term to just continue to beef up their streaming services, get that technology better. And also, you don't have to convince someone to go out and buy a Vita, right? They already have the mobile phone, so you could just stream right to that. So I hate to say it, but I think it's more likely you see Sony address the portable market by streaming besides dedicated hardware. But I'd love to be wrong on that. Thank you for the super chat, Phil. Real Radic here with another 2 super chat. Benji, Sony buys NetherRealm Studios. PS All-Stars reboot. That would be amazing. I'd love to see another PlayStation All-Stars. Here's what I'm saying. Whether they buy NetherRealm or not, Sony should totally give that IP another shot, right? Like, they absolutely should. Listen, I get the first game didn't meet their sales expectations, but that game also, like, as someone that played it, it didn't play the best, right? I don't think that was the best mascot fighting game that we could have gotten from Sony, right? There's just the reality that people love so many of PlayStation's characters. And in fact, since PS All-Stars, they've created many new characters that people love. People like Aloy, right? You could put Aloy in there. You could put a ton, right? I'm not going to go down the list, but you get what I'm saying. Like, they could have a real beefy roster. I think they really should take a second stab at that. Look at how big Smash is, okay? I'm not saying a PlayStation All-Stars reboot is gonna match Smash. In fact, I can basically tell you the odds are almost zero they could match Smash. That game is like next level big. But I think they could have success in that field. So whether they got NetherRealm Studios or not, I would like Sony to try just one more time, okay? One more time. One more shot, and if that fails, okay, we're done. We're not touching this. But yeah, I mean, if they bought NetherRealm, that'd be amazing. But you know, again, I'm gonna say that NetherRealm is a long shot. If I had to guess, I don't think these WB studios are gonna sell. But you can't rule it out because everything's so volatile right now with what's going on with WB. Thank you for the super chat, Real Radic. That was your second one. And then Timmer here with a 10 super chat. Thank you, Timmer. That's your second super chat. With the Elder Scrolls Online being the most successful Bethesda game from the past 4 years. Yes, this is a lot of people don't realize, but Elder Scrolls Online is very successful. According to Pete Hines, do you see the next Zenimax Online Studios game being the wild card? Man, Timmer, this is a great question. In Xbox's upcoming lineup. Absolutely. So here's what we know, Timmer. there's a very, very big new project that's being spun up at Zenimax Online, right? They're recruiting for it. They've acquired talent from other studios, including PlayStation, that have joined Zenimax Online. Yes, yes. This is an under the radar studio that people really aren't talking about. Now, whatever this next Zenimax Online game is going to be, I think it is a ways out, right? I'm not going to assume we see this game in the next 2 years, even maybe 3 years, right? This could be a game that's like 4 years out. Sounds like it's probably pretty early in production, but this game could be very huge. Elder Scrolls Online has been a giant success for them, and it's really impressive how they turned that game around, right? When it came out at first, keep in mind, Elder Scrolls Online was seen as a bit of a failure, right? Both in terms of consumers playing the game. I don't think it lived up to expectations. And then also internally, it wasn't meeting the kind of metrics that they wanted it to, but they've put in a ton of work, released regular updates, and that's become one of the biggest MMOs in the world, right? It just is. It's not the biggest, of course. Things like, World of Warcraft, Final Fantasy 14, there's other giant MMOs out there, but Elder Scrolls Online is in that pack, right? It's one of the biggest MMOs in the world. So yeah, I mean, if ZeniMax Online's new game they're making, we know it's in development. We don't exactly know what it is. If that's a quality game, yeah, that could definitely be a wild card people are overlooking. Yep. I see very little discussion about that. It could be huge. It could be very huge, especially coupled with Game Pass, right? Keep that in mind. It seems that online games in particular do very well coupled with that Game Pass subscription. So get Game Pass, get a new ZeniMax Online game, boom, could be very big. But again, I wouldn't expect that game for years. That's probably pretty far out. 3 years, I'd say at the soonest. Could be 4 years. All right. Super chats are cleared. Thank you for all the super chats, everyone. Thanks for a good turnout on a Saturday. I had no idea if anyone was going to show up or not. So thanks for a good turnout, everyone. And I'm glad we got this live chat in. I'm going to start hitting some free questions. Hamish Lee Ford. Hey, Benji. Hope you're doing good, doing well, doing great, Hamish. I hope you're doing good, too. Thoughts on Starfield launching in 2022? Yep, maybe even 2023. That would basically mean the Elder Scrolls 6 is a 2026 game too. Yeah, it's got to be far out. I wasn't expecting this, to be honest. So Starfield being 2022 isn't surprising to me. I had even commented, even when rumors were swirling that this game was a 2021 game. Of course, I acknowledged them here on the chat. Of course, I said I could see a scenario where that could happen. But I did always say, wouldn't surprise me if this is a 2022 game, actually, right? So that part is really not surprising to me. I hate to say it. I kind of mentioned this on Twitter. There's a couple things to keep in mind. First of all, Bethesda Game Studios just takes forever to make games. Okay, this is just a fact. Now, there was a time period back on the 360 where they were releasing games pretty quick. But after Skyrim, boy, did things slow down, right? There was a long gap between Skyrim and Fallout 4. And now there's going to be a huge gap between Fallout 4 and Starfield. It's a brand new IP. Bethesda Game Studios just takes a while to make games nowadays. Also, you have the fact, of course, we have to keep in mind that there was a pandemic that hit in the middle of this game. There's a lot of factors. I don't think this being 2022 is all that shocking. It is a bummer, though, that this means, the Elder Scrolls 6 is way out. This game, this is going to be a late generation game, right? By the time we get to the Elder Scrolls 6, we're going to be towards the end. Not the very end, but towards the end of this generation. It's a bummer, right? It's a bummer. Talk about a game getting announced early. So it is what it is. I think 2022 actually is probably going to be a better time slot, though this is the part that did surprise me, Hamish. Let me say one thing. This game being 2022 didn't surprise me. I thought for sure that would be first half. It sounds like this is the very end of 2022. I don't think this is going to get delayed till 2023 because the thing is U.S. developed games, I think starting next year, you're going to see a lot less delayed games. Will there still be some? Yes, there's always game delays every year, right? But the pandemic impact is really going to start winding down here in the U.S. Now, other countries are different, but here in the U.S., our cases are just free falling, right? The pandemic in the U.S., the worst is clearly behind us unless something really mutates with this virus. But as of now, the US is on the other side of it. In fact, you're seeing people return to their offices, things like that. So you're going to see way less delays next year, I think, than what you saw this year. I don't think it slips till 2023, but the fact it sounds like it's very late 2022, I did not expect that, Hamish. I thought it would have been the first half of the year. And then Hamish asking one more question here. As you probably saw, Summer Game Fest is coming June 10th. Which one are you more hyped for, E3 or Game Fest? I'm going to say E3, really just because E3 has a special place in my heart, right? It's always been my dream to get to cover E3 in person. And then, of course, right whenever my social media and stuff really blew up, right whenever I got a chance that I would maybe be big enough now I could get a press badge to E3, the pandemic hits. So I didn't get that opportunity. E3 has just always meant a lot to me, right? Ever since I was a kid, like seriously pretty young, and then all through my adult life, I would always take off work that week. It's just like good vibes for me. I'm a summer child at heart anyways. I love the summer. So you take the summer and you combined it with video games. It's like literally the perfect time of year for me. So I'm excited for Summer Game Fest, but E3 more, yeah. E3 is going to always be special to me, no matter what. And hopefully the dream, fingers crossed, is I can cover E3 in person next year. That's the dream. If I get to do that, I'm going to put a ton of videos here on the channel for video game stuff. Daily Pro Gamer. Battlefield 6 on Game Pass. I think it's possible, but Daily Pro. I'm not one of these people that's 100% convinced it's going to happen because that would be an enormous check from Microsoft. It'd be the most expensive game they ever put on Game Pass. It flat out would. If that's day one, that will be the biggest deal that Microsoft ever signed for Game Pass. It might not be, whenever you count development like first party, right? I mean, Halo Infinite is going to cost more money to develop than it would cost to give EA a check for Battlefield 6. But I mean like a third-party game. Battlefield 6 would be, if it's day one, the most expensive thing that they've ever done on Game Pass. So anytime you factor that in, woo, you question, are they really willing to spend that kind of money? I'm going to say it's possible, but I'm not convinced it's going to happen. But it could. I mean, it seems that EA and Microsoft clearly have a close relationship. EA Play is part of Game Pass Ultimate, so clearly there's a tight-knit thing there. So it's not impossible, but dang, that's going to cost them a ton of freaking money if they do that. A ton. It'll be the most expensive third-party game they've ever put on the service. Easily. Like, easily. CMG. It seems like the Series S is not selling out anymore and is readily available in many markets, unlike the Series X's and of course PS5. Why do you think this could be? Could Microsoft be in trouble? Do you think Microsoft is thinking the Series S is meant for more emerging markets? Would the digital-only nature of the console be an issue in that case? No, CMG. In fact, the last 2 months in a row, so we just got this info, the last 2 months in a row, Xbox Series S was the #1 selling console in India. #1 for 2 months in a row. So I definitely think you are right that there's less overall demand for the Series S than there is for the Series X and there is for the PlayStation 5. I think that's definitely true. And that is why you're seeing the Series S not always sell out, right? That's why you're seeing it in some markets kind of readily available. Because at the end of the day, right now, people really want that PS5 or they really want that Series X, right? They want that top of the line. Those are the two that truly sell out like crazy. But Series S is more, I think, of like a, just like another, entry point for the market. You're seeing it find success in India. It's probably finding some success in other markets as well. I don't think Series S is going to ever really be the best selling between that and Series X. I think you're going to see more people go for Series X's over the years than you're going to see Series S. But Series S is a nice thing for them because keep in mind, that's a console they can discount super cheap during like the holiday season and get boosts during that. You saw a similar thing with the Nintendo Switch and the Nintendo Switch Lite. When the Lite came out, it was just nowhere near as popular as the standard Switch. To this day, the standard Switch, if both are readily available, right? If both of them are on the shelves, the standard Switch sells out way faster than the Switch Lite. It's just a fact, right? Lite really has, I would say, gotten a boost as the regular Switch has been so hard to get a hold of. People that just want a Switch are now willing to buy a Lite just so they have some kind of Switch. But there's way less pure demand for the Switch Lite than there is for the standard Switch. And I view the Series S and the X kind of in the same way, right? Series X is probably their flagship. That's the one most people are going to want. They're like hardcore gamers. But that Series S is just like a nice companion piece to the overall ecosystem of Xbox. So I don't think they're in trouble with it. It's just one of those things, right? At the end of the day, right now at least, people definitely want PS5 and Series X more than Series S. Yeah, for sure. Casual Gamer. Hello there, Benji. Do you think it's possible that WB Games will announce Injustice 3 at E3 or DC Fandom and release it early next year? Is it possible that we might get 3 DC games next year spaced out? Meaning, is it possible that we would get Injustice 3 in April, Gotham Knights in July, Suicide Squad in November, or is it highly unlikely that 3 DC games release next year? So I do think we're going to see the next NetherRealm game sometime soon. However, Casual Gamer, there are very heavy rumors that that game involves Marvel. So is that DC versus Marvel? Or is that just a Marvel game? That is super interesting that that rumor's out there. You saw, I think, Ed Boon even hint at this, right? After those rumors hit, you saw Ed Boon on Twitter retweet a tweet saying, James Gunn, wow, he worked on both Marvel and DC, so impressive. And then he put a thinking emoji. I don't know if that's Ed Boon kind of acknowledging those rumors and hinting. Casual Gamer, it looks like, and this isn't a lock, but there very well could be a Marvel-related fighting game coming from NetherRealm. So, yeah, I'm curious. Is that going to be DC versus Marvel? That would be wild. Could you imagine how much that would sell? Or is it just going to be strictly a Marvel game? I don't know, but that does appear probably to be the next game from NetherRealm. And then the second part of your question, put it this way, it's either going to be Injustice or it's going to be whatever this Marvel thing is, right? It's going to be one of those two. It's not going to be Mortal Kombat, I don't think. Mortal Kombat 12 will be after whatever this next fighting game is. But will we get 3 DC games next year? I think Suicide Squad's probably going to get delayed. Hate to say that. We've seen nothing on that game other than a concept trailer. They already delayed Gotham Knights. They already delayed Hogwarts Legacy. I do think NetherRealm's new game will be next year as well. So you get to a point, if you're WB, are you going to release like 4 or 5 games in 1 year and then just have nothing to release the next year? I say no. So my guess, Casual Gamer, is that those other games hit next year, but Suicide Squad gets delayed till 2023. Just a guess, but I think that's what's going to happen. Make sure there's no super chats that have popped. Nope, we're good. We're good. Miles Morales. Love the name. Ahoy. If AT&T and Discovery sell their WB Gaming studios, do you think it's possible that they sell them in batches? Definitely possible. Who do you think could acquire them? Do you think Sony could buy NetherRealm? Exactly. Yep. So we already talked about this a bunch, so I'll address the first part of your question. Could they sell them in batches? Yes. In fact, I think that's probably in this particular case the more likely scenario, because I could see a situation where WB wants to keep some of these studios, right? WB and Discovery, but they don't want all of them. So like I could see a scenario where they want Rocksteady to stay because Rocksteady makes DC related games. I could see them wanting WB Montreal to stay because they make DC games. But I could see a scenario where maybe they don't want Monolith, right? I kind of mentioned that before. You know, Avalanche, I would have said probably, but now they're making a Harry Potter game, so we don't know. But I think it's possible. Put it this way, if anything sells out of this, I think it will be in batches or piecemeal over the entire thing in once, because I think that they are probably at the very least going to keep some of these studios. But I could see them selling a few off, yeah. I could see that happening. King Lizard, man, a lot of people very interested in WB. I get it, right? It's a huge news story. Do Do you think it's possible that AT&T only keep 4 mobile studios WB Games own and give the rest to Discovery? Yep, that's what I think is going to happen. Do you think Discovery will hold onto these studios or sell them? What's best and worst? So we got into the selling part. In terms of the mobile part, that's my guess. Yeah, that's my guess. When AT&T said they're gonna, some studios are going to Discovery, some are staying with AT&T. This is a theory I've seen popping up online, and it does make sense. I could see AT&T keeping the mobile developers because that still fits into their ecosystem, right? AT&T wants to really double down and focus on their telecommunications business, right? And kind of move away from media. So, you know, mobile games tie right into mobile phones, all of it. Yep. So I could see that. I could see a scenario where Discovery gets all the AAA teams and then AT&T holds on to the mobile developers. Yep. I could see that. I could see that. That's a scenario that at least makes sense to me. Here's what would not make sense to me is that some of the AAA devs go to Discovery and some stay with AT&T. That would feel exceptionally weird to me because basically all of the really important IP and properties that are media related are moving over to Discovery. So like, why would you hold on to, for example, let's say they send WB Montreal and NetherRealm to Discovery, but then they kept Rocksteady at AT&T. That doesn't make sense, right? Like, why would you do that? Either you would send them all together or you would keep them all with you at AT&T. It would make no sense to me to split those studios up like that, but splitting them between mobile devs and AAA console and PC devs, that does make sense. So that's a scenario I could see, yeah. That's a scenario that would make sense to me. We just had a super chat drop here from Timmer. I think that's your 3rd super chat. Holy cow. Thank you, Timmer. And we are going to be able to stream for like 20 more minutes or so. And then I got to head out to work. So I'm going to stream for like probably another 20. Timmer72299. If the Zenimax CEO never kicked out the founder of Bethesda in 2002 and Zenimax started acquiring companies since the beginning, 1999, where do you think the company would have been now? Ooh, acquired or not? Oh, man, that is tough. That is tough. Here's the thing. Zenimax was privately owned, and I think they always would have been attractive to be acquired. So do I think that they would for sure be acquired now if they would have, like, you know, been acquiring more studios and growing from the very beginning? I'm not going to say that's a lock. However, out of pretty much all of the big publishers, they would have been that one that is most attractive for acquisition, unless they would have become a truly public company, right? Because here's the thing. If you're buying EA, if you're buying Activision, if you're buying even these Japanese ones, right? Square Enix, all of that, it's way more complicated being a publicly traded company to acquire than it's going to be, you know, over a privately held company. Because that privately held company, the only deal you got to make is between those owners, right? So you can do it all in private. You can work out a contract in private. That's essentially what happened with Bethesda, right? No one knew anything until they just came out and said, hey, we're acquiring Zenimax. If it's a publicly traded company, there's way more involved, right? You got to deal with all the investors. That price is going to balloon spectacularly because you're going to have to go way over market cap to acquire them. So here's what I will say, because it's a tough question, but the one thing I will say is as long as they stayed a privately held company, they were always going to be one of the most attractive publishers for anyone to acquire because it's just way less work, right? Way less work. Still going to be expensive. So would they for sure have been acquired by now? I don't know, but you would have seen people attempting it. Yeah, you would have seen people attempt it for sure, especially Microsoft, right? Because here's the thing, they're not done, right? I keep saying that they're not done. They're going to acquire more. They're still talking to people. I literally know studios that Microsoft has approached. So, like flat out. Some of those deals didn't work out. So, in fact, some of them have already been turned down. But I know of studios that Microsoft has approached about acquisition. Yep. So they ain't done. Thank you for that super chat, Timmer. That was like 3 in one chat. Thank you so much. Forzathon is back. Go wild, Benji, and tell me your most out there prediction. Ooh, out there prediction announcement for E3, but also a reasonable one. Do you think we will see Amy Hennig's Skydance project this year? So my out there prediction would have been that you would see Silent Hill this E3. Yep, that would have been my prediction. But now we know Konami pulled out. That would have been my prediction because something Silent Hill, I am very confident that there is a Silent Hill project on the way. So that would have been my prediction. I would have said, this is it. You're finally gonna see Silent Hill. But nope, because Konami pulled out. So you're not gonna see Silent Hill. So that does make it a little tougher. One out there one, and I know Grubb said it's not going to happen, but I almost still wonder if Compulsion is going to announce their new IP. I don't know. I just still feel like that's possible. I know that game's super early in development, but they've been doing some teases on Twitter. They tweeted out that, like Compulsion Games' official Twitter account tweeted out that piece of concept art. You saw somebody else tweet out not that long ago a picture of a box that said Compulsion Games in a cardboard box, and it said, I'd show more, but I'd get in trouble. It's like, Compulsion seems to be doing some teases. So that's an out there one because, again, apparently this game is super early, and Grubb said it's not at E3, but that would be an out there one that I think there's a slim chance that Compulsion could show their new IP. Who else is going to be there? EA? What's something out there EA could show? I think you will see something Dead Space from EA. I don't know if it's this E3 though. But that's a possibility. Could see something Dead Space related. But I don't know if that's this E3 or if that'll be later. But I think you will see Dead Space in some capacity in the next couple of years. Yeah. And besides that, Activision's not really going to be there. WB is going to be there, but we like know all their games. Bethesda, maybe they're going to show something from Arcane, right? I could see that. I don't know for sure what, but maybe Arcane announces something new. That's an out there one. I don't think that's super out there, but I don't know that people are expecting Arcane. So maybe you see Arcane announce a new game. I don't know. That's a few off the top of my head. I think we just had a super chat drop. We did. Highlander001 with a 5 super chat. If Microsoft acquires Valve/Steam, would this make Sony buy more into Epic? Oh, man. Here's the thing. How much would that freaking cost? Because Valve and Steam is privately owned, right? That's another scenario where, like I just talked about with Bethesda, you know, that's going to be more attractive in a lot of ways than a publicly traded company. But here's the thing, man. That price tag, my goodness. Woo! My goodness, man. Valve Steam would be, I mean, astronomical. You're talking about purchasing the biggest storefront on PC. I can't even imagine. I can't even imagine how much that would cost. So I'm going to call that Highlander an ultra long shot. What I do think you're going to see, though, is a, which is going to actually tie into what you're talking about with Sony and Epic. I think you're going to see a tighter relationship between Valve and Microsoft moving forward. Put it this way, you flat out had leaked documents from this ongoing case that's going on between Apple and Epic. And part of the documents in the emails said that Phil has been regularly meeting with Gabe. You know, and then you also had rumors floating around out there that there was some sort of deal getting reached between Microsoft and Valve to incorporate Game Pass into Steam. That would not surprise me at all. So I don't think it would, again, be unbelievable, the price tag to flat out buy Valve. I don't know that Microsoft would want to do that. And here's the other thing. Would that start to approach monopoly in terms of PC, right? Microsoft's still ultra far away from having a monopoly on consoles. right? Like not even close. You see people always call monopoly when Microsoft buys studios. They're nowhere close. But I don't know. I don't know if the courts would love Microsoft having the Windows Store and then also owning Steam, and that tied in with all of Microsoft's other presence on PC. I know there are other storefronts and launchers, Epic Games Store, GOG, but I just don't know if the courts would 100% love that, right? That is one purchase where I feel like they might get a little pushback on. So I'm not saying that the courts would flat out block that acquisition, but I think you would see some trepidation there. So I think you're going to instead see Microsoft and Valve just become a lot more friendly, right? I think so. That's what I think. Some people saying, Benji Insider confirmed, that face, you know something. Of course I know some things, y'all. Of course. But again, like I always say in every chat, I don't consider myself an insider, right? I mean, here's the thing, right? I mentioned this. I'm still small compared to a lot of big media people. But I mean, I have a decent following, right? It's like 23,000 now on Twitter or something like that. A huge chunk of that is people in gaming media, publishers, developers. I'm going to know some stuff. But I don't consider myself an insider. Be very clear on that, y'all. Very clear. I don't go around parading myself. Benji knows all the intricate secrets. Not even close. I don't even know 5% of what's happening behind the scenes. But I mean, yeah, I'm going to have inside info on some stuff. Yeah, for sure. Okay, I'm going to have to be a little selective on questions. Just because I have to wind the chat down in like 15 minutes or so. We can still keep going for a little bit, but I can't like hit every single question. So I'm going to have to rapid fire some of these questions. But this is a good one right here from King Lizard. With the shortages and the pandemic in sight, is it possible that third-party publishers will continue to support last-gen consoles well into 2022? I mean, last-gen consoles have huge install base, right? You know what? It could happen. Yeah, it could happen. I used to say that I thought 2022 you'd see a huge drop-off of cross-gen games. I'm not 100% convinced of that anymore, especially as these sellouts and this production issues have continued well into this year. And you also have basically confirmation from Sony that this is going to go into 2022. So the reality is we're not going to have a situation where at least PS5s and Series X's, Series S, like we mentioned, is a bit of a different story, but I think the flagship consoles, the PS5s, the Series X's, those are going to be sellouts probably well into next year. So you're going to definitely start to see next-gen only games next year, but you might see more cross-gen than I expected. Yeah, it's possible. It's definitely possible, King Lizard. The pandemic really messed everything up. Like, no doubt about it. There's just no doubt. Dead Monkey UK said, have a good show, Benji. I think I had a good one. I hope everyone's been enjoying the show. We had a good turnout. Thank you so much, everyone. This is an interesting question here from Paul. What are your thoughts on the PS5 software situation in Japan? For anyone that's missed this, PS5 hardware sales and software sales have like a horrific correlation, okay? PS5's still selling like chunks of units every week, but it's pushing like no software. And when I say no, I mean, y'all, low software, very low software. Such low software that there's no way that digital's making up the gap. Is it making some of the gap? Yes, but there's no way it's making up all of it. Paul, what this says to me, and I'm by no means an expert on the Japanese market, right? I check the charts every single week, but there are tons of people that know way more about the Japanese market than me, right? I would say I have like a familiarity with the market, a somewhat understanding of the market, but I'm not an expert. But at least what it looks like to me is that a lot of these PS5s that are being sold are not going to Japanese consumers. And what I mean by that is, do I mean it's just going to resellers to put on eBay or whatever the resale is there? No, I actually think these are consoles that are getting sold and shipped to other markets. Honestly, other places in Asia, things like that. That's almost the only scenario that makes sense to me because there is such a discrepancy. Like, it's huge. The gap between software sales and hardware sales in Japan, it almost makes no other sense than that these consoles are going to places other than Japan. Like people are buying them and sending them overseas. That's the only thing I can think of. Because other than that, digital will make some of the gap, but nowhere close. Nowhere close. This is an interesting question here from Silence PP7. Thanks, Silence PP7, for being in like every chat. With Biomutant and Mass Effect highlighting flaws with backwards compatibility on PS5, do you see Sony addressing this by improving their backwards compatibility solution over time, like Microsoft, or will they simply rely on native PS5 ports? Silence PP7, I think they will do a slow improvement. Will they ever get to the level that Microsoft is currently at with their backwards compatibility, where Microsoft is just like, it feels like smashing home runs in that regard, right? You can criticize Microsoft for other things. I think like the one thing you definitely can't criticize them at all is on backwards compatibility. They're the best in the industry at it. They're better than Nintendo. They're better than Sony, right? PC, of course, is going to be better because PC is infinitely backwards compatible, right? You can play, there is no generations on PC, right? Even if a game gets like outdated or something happens with like, you know, authenticating a game, people on PC always find a workaround. So PC is going to always be the number one. But in terms of the console space, Microsoft, they just flat out, they have the best backwards compatibility in the industry. I think you are going to see Sony realize, I think they do realize it's important. I think that's why you saw PS5 support PS4 games. I think you will see them slowly improve. I don't know that they'll ever hit Microsoft's level, but I don't think that they're going to just like stop, right? I think they know it's important. Eventually, there's going to be a PS6. They're going to want these PS5 games to work on PS6. Keep in mind, one advantage that we're seeing as time goes on. This is a bit of an interesting spinoff, but I think it's important, so that's why I'm going to mention it. We are seeing games, including from prior generations, have much longer legs than we did in the past. And there's a reason for that. Games are just flat out holding up way better. Okay, way better. Those Xbox One and those PS4 games, a lot of them you play now, they don't feel that dated. Okay, some of them do, and we do have big jumps in graphics and big jumps in visuals. And as we go deeper into this cycle, that gap will feel bigger. But I don't feel like it's at times in the past where it's like once you were on the PS2, like immediately pretty much, PS1 games felt real archaic, right? That jump felt like just huge. And we've seen that with other generations. The thing is that these high-end AAA games from last gen, they still play great. They still look great. And we just had Ubisoft talk about on their conference call, it was a record quarter for Assassin's Creed. And part of that was Valhalla, right? They flat out said Valhalla had an enormous launch. It was a huge success for them. But they also went out of their way to note that games like Odyssey and Origins just continue to have incredible legs. And that is part of it, right? They're just going to keep selling and selling and selling because those games are just holding up better than games used to. So I think as time goes on, backwards compatibility actually becomes more important because people are going to feel more comfortable going back and playing those games, especially if they get things like FPS boosts and stuff like that as well. So yeah, you're going to see Sony continue to improve backwards compatibility, I believe. They know it's important. I'm not going to go out of my way to say that they're going to instantly become competitive with Xbox on that front because I feel Xbox really is pouring in so many resources to it. Okay, we just had another 10 super chat from Timmer. Holy cow, Timmer. I think that's like 5 super chats. It's ridiculous, Timmer. Thank you so much. Another 10. If the Pokemon Company went public in 2001, as they were considering back then, and the Pokemon franchise only made $20 billion by that point, who do you think would have bought them then? Oh, man. Pokemon Company, I don't know if anyone could ever buy. I mean, you could, right? Like, but man, that price would be unbelievable. Because here's the thing that makes Pokemon Company like so ridiculous. Yes, it's like one IP, but you would be buying a giant media conglomerate. It's not like some of these other publishers where you're really mostly just buying video games. You would be buying an anime that's huge, that's been running forever. You'd be running the card games, which is now bigger than it's ever been. You're buying into the video games. You're buying into the merchandising, as weird as it sounds, things like t-shirts and stuff like that. I mean, how many kids do you see that have Pokemon clothes and stuff like that? Like, it would be enormous. Here's the thing. The only people that would have the money would be the biggest big tech companies, right? It would be your Microsofts, your Amazons, your Googles. Like, that's it. That price tag would be so inflated, you would not see even Nintendo, I don't think, right? Flat out come out and buy them. So I think it would only be one of the tech giants. I think that's it. The only, if they were to get acquired, right? And Pokemon was still, like you said, if they went public back then. Oh, well, you're saying if they would have bought them back then, not now? Ooh, good question. I don't know back then. But if we're talking now, right, if they were a publicly traded company now with all the success they've had over the years, the only company that could afford them is a tech giant. That's it. Or at least only people that could afford them that would be interested in. I think they would be too much even for Sony and Nintendo. Okay. Let's pull a couple more. I wish I could answer more, but I'm out of time. Got to go to work. RRD. What would be a good E3 for Xbox to you? I think a good showing of Halo, Starfield, some Game Pass editions, and some surprise game reveals would be great. So for Microsoft's E3, Halo has to hit a home run. It has to. Okay, Halo can't look mediocre in my opinion. It already had one mediocre showing. If it has a second mediocre showing after a year delay, and this is the first true giant exclusive Microsoft first-party studios game on Series X and S, right? We all know there's been a drought of Microsoft developed games on Series X and S. Halo literally has to look amazing. It can't look anything less than amazing. Does that mean it has to have the best visuals of any single game we ever see at E3? No. It needs to look better than it did, and it also needs to look like an awesome gameplay and great story, and the multiplayer needs to be a home run. That's literally the number one important thing for Microsoft Showcase. Seriously, I know some of you don't care about Halo. I know some people just want to get hyped out of their mind about games that are 2, 3, 4 years out. But the reality is, right now, in the immediate future, Halo has to look good. So that's, first of all, Halo has to be a home run. So that would be a requirement for me for their show. Starfield also has to be shown and has to look good. They have to start showing Xbox consumers what this Bethesda purchase means for them, besides just a name, right? Besides just throwing a bunch of logos around and throwing a bunch of studio names around, they have to start showing, hey, these are the games we're gonna deliver for Xbox consumers. So Starfield needs to look good. It needs to be there. Forza Horizon 5, I think, would definitely be a big home run, right? Forza, as we know, Horizon 4 was enormous. So 5 being there would be great. And I've said this before, this isn't insider info, but I would caution against expecting tons of brand new announcements, right? I would caution against that from Microsoft themselves. And I'm assuming that's what you're talking about for, oh yeah, you said good E3 for Xbox. I wouldn't expect like 5 new first party games like that you've never heard of being here. They already have so many announced they haven't shown any details on, really. I think this is mostly going to be a gameplay update with a couple, right? 2 or 3 new announcements. But that's the thing. Yeah, Starfield, Halo, Forza Horizon 5, and then 1 or 2 new games in there, right? Super Peach Boy, when do you think we'll see Saints Row 5? Soon. That actually could be E3. Yeah, that could be E3. In fact, someone asked me, you guys have been asking me predictions. I'll predict that. I think you see Saints Row 5 at E3. Yep. It's been in development for a while now. It can't be too far off, as in like the next year. Saints Row 5 should be at E3. Yeah, I would expect that. If Saints Row 5 is not at E3, that game's probably caught a hefty delay. Like hefty. Otherwise, I think it's there. Yeah, pencil that in. Good chance for Saints Row 5. And yeah, should be. Okay, pull a few more out. Phil said, hey, Benji, loving your work. Thank you so much, Phil. I appreciate that so much. It means a lot to me. J Cat's been saying, what's up? What is up, J Cat? So good to see you. RRD saying, hit the like button. I do appreciate the likes, y'all. The likes help my channel get found. Hopefully my stream's holding up. On my end, it looks like it's getting a bit choppy. Might be getting choppy right here at the end of the stream. So we might be having to call it. Here we go. I'm going to hit an MMA question and then 2 more game questions. All right, then the chat's done. MMA question, 2 more games. Man. Chat, is my stream dead? Can you let me know? Because otherwise I might need to just call it right now. Can you just let me know at the bottom of chat if my stream died for you? Or if it's still going? Let me know. Because on my end, it looks like it's done. But if it's still going, I'm going to answer this MMA question and 2 gaming questions. Okay. I'm just going to keep going and hopefully people drop in chat if it's still live. So first, let me hit this MMA question and then 2 gaming questions. Then we're done. Where did it go? Where did it go? Here we go. Zen Famous. Hey, Benji, I have a quick MMA question. Who do you have between Garbrandt and Font in a few short hours? If Cody is calm, I think he definitely takes this one. Zen Famous, I think Cody Garbrandt, he's one of my favorite fighters to watch fight. I think he is one of the most talented fighters in the world when he is calm. Exactly like you said, right? When Cody gets emotional, he leaves his chin out there, right? He just fights dumb. I hate to say it, but he fights dumb. You know, here's the thing. Cody does not have a bad chin. That's one of those things you've seen pop up. Oh, Cody's got no chin. You just touch his chin and he goes to sleep. Not at all. If you watch the fights he got knocked out in, it's because he's taking dumb, reckless punches. And he takes multiple ones and then he gets knocked out because he gets emotional, he gets too aggressive, and he doesn't plan his shots out. Now, Rob Font is a great boxer. He's got great striking. You cannot count him out, but I agree, Zinfamous. If Cody is calm, if he fights smart, if he picks his shots, I got Cody by KO. However, he could also easily get knocked out, right? I mean, if he fights dumb, he's going to get caught. He just cannot do that. But if he fights his fight, I think I've got Cody by KO. Okay, 2 game questions and then we're out. 2 game questions and we out. Sorry, everybody. I wish I could go longer, but I literally have to go to work. So let me pick really quick 2 of them. Let me see. These are going to just be random picks right here at the end. Jose makes a good point here really quick. This is just a comment, but I agree with it. Some people throw so much rumors, eventually they will get one right and say, I said it and came true, but neglect the 99% that weren't true. Exactly, Jose. That's why I make it very clear, I am not an insider, y'all. I am not. It's way too much work. It's way too much trying to dig through BS, figure out who's telling the truth, figure out who's telling lies for clout. That's why you don't really see me do much of it, right? Every once in a while, I'll hint at something. But in general, no. It's just too much drama involved with all that, right? But I agree, yeah. Yeah, there are some. Not all insiders are like that, but there's definitely some that do that. Yep, there's definitely some that do that. By the way, Dark Detective has been great in the chat. It's great to see Dark Detective, good friend of mine. Doing a great job covering Embracer and others. So shout out to Dark. He's been having a bunch of great comments in there. Danger Man here. Motive doing Dead Space is my guess. Grub's squeamish as far as I know when Motive is brought up. Interesting theory, Danger Man. Interesting theory. Interesting theory. Got no comment on that. Mr. J, any beard growing tips? What trimmer do you use? So I don't have a ton of tips. I just have had a beard like my whole life. I guess I got kind of lucky in that regard. You know, is it like the most crazy intense beard? Like, you know, there's some guys that have even thicker ones than me, but I got lucky, right? As we all know, genetics for everything's a roll of the dice. I just got lucky, and I've had, I mean, literally, there's pictures of me in like 7th grade with like a full mustache goatee thing rocking, and literally like 7th grade. So it's just luck. It's just luck of the genetic draw. In terms of like trimmer, I just use like the, I think it's like the Philips 3-in-1 or something basic. It's nothing crazy. But yeah, you'll basically never see me clean shaven. I don't like myself clean shaven. I don't like it. Some people look great clean shaven. I'm telling you, I'm not one of them. I'm not one of them. I look much better with a beard than without it. I basically always have a beard. Okay, Super Peach Boy, Benji, with Bethesda and Obsidian both under the Microsoft umbrella, do you think we'll see some sort of new Vegas 2 collaboration? I think we're going to see a new Fallout, probably not from... Whoa, my daughter's going nuts. I don't know if you guys can hear that, but she's freaking out. I think we're going to see a new Fallout not from Bethesda this generation, yeah. And it's strictly because Bethesda doesn't have time, right? They've got Starfield they still need to get out. That ain't coming until 2022. Then they have Elder Scrolls 6 they have to start on after that. Of course, it's in pre-production, but like full-scale development. So that's going to be years out. They're not going to have time to work on Fallout. So whether that's going to be Obsidian, whether that's going to be In Exile, whether that's going to be who knows, you don't skip an entire generation of Fallout, one of the biggest IPs in the world. So somebody in Microsoft or Bethesda, someone's going to make a Fallout. Yeah. Whether that's New Vegas 2, I don't know. But I think you will see a non-Bethesda Game Studios Fallout this gen. Yes, I do think so. I do think so. Okay, last one, y'all. Last one. I have to go. I have to go. Ba 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 ba. Okay. Let me grab one more and then we got to go. Sorry, I'm taking too long. Yeah, Dark Detective here had a great follow-up comment to our Japanese talk earlier. There's 2.5 PS5 consoles sold in Japan for each copy of software. Usually it's the other way around. It's ridiculous. Exactly, y'all. That's exactly what we were talking about earlier. There's just no way that all these PS5 consoles that are being sold are actually going to Japanese consumers. There's just no way. It makes no sense. The discrepancy is so big. Something else is happening there, right? And the only thing that really makes sense to me is scalpers, you know, like large scalpers, not just a random person that's going to resell it, but like large scalping that's going on to quickly purchase these consoles and send them overseas or something. Like, it's the only thing that makes sense with that big of a discrepancy. It's outrageous. It's crazy. Okay. Are we going to call it there? Are we going to call it there? I think we might. Here we go. Lord Gaben here gets the last question. Then we're out. Lord Gaben, last question, then we're done. Do you think Xbox will use id Tech as their main engine for their studios in the future? Phil mentioned once how id Tech is important to Xbox. I don't know it's going to be their main engine. You're still going to see a ton of Unreal Engine. Here's the thing. They love that engine. Like, we already have confirmed multiple projects in the first party of Xbox that are using Unreal Engine 5, right? Not even the Unreal Engine that's out, but the next one. So is it ever going to be their main engine? I would say no, but I do think you're going to see some cases where some studios use id Tech. Yeah, it's an incredibly good engine, like so impressive. They have done so much work on that thing to make it run amazing, look amazing. it's an incredible engine. So are you going to see some projects on id Tech? Yeah, I would say almost certainly, especially from the Bethesda side of things, right? I don't know how many of Microsoft's other teams will use it, maybe a few, but you're definitely going to see some. Yeah, you're definitely going to see some. There's just no way that they would ignore an engine that's good that they actually own, right? They don't even need to license id Tech. They own it. So you're going to see some games on it for sure, no doubt. Okay, everyone, I got to call the chat there. Thank you for an amazing chat. Thank you for a good turnout. I had no idea how turnout was going to be on a Saturday because I don't usually stream then. A couple things really quick. Subscribe to my channel if you're not already. Trying to get to 3,000 subscribers by E3. I don't think we're going to make it, to be honest. It's getting close. It's coming down to the wire, but subscribe if you're not already. Trying to get to 3,000 subs by E3. Follow me on Twitter if you don't already. I'm Benji-Sales at Twitter. Like the video if you haven't already. It helps the YouTube algorithm. Stay safe. Play some games. I have to go. My daughter is melting down and I have to go to work. So thank you, everyone. Bye. Have a great day. Bye. Thank you for an awesome stream. Bye, 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 bye.